Okay, so good morning, everybody. Well, today we plan to start with another topic of Excel, the use of Excel in financial management. And so, in this area, I'm going to focus on topics like ratio analysis for today's lecture. So, before I start with the application of Excel in ratio analysis, let me just give you a very brief idea about what ratio analysis is all about. Ratio analysis is nothing but the comparison of the line items in the financial statements of a business. Ratio analysis is used to evaluate a number of issues within entities such as liquidity, efficiency of operations, and profitability. So these ratios do indicate to some extent the financial position of any company, whether the company is into losses or into the profit. And often, at times, it has been used by many organizations, such as bank or many other companies, to decide whether they would want to give loan or resources to the company or not. So ratio analysis is basically done to analyze the company's financial and trend of a company's result over a period of time. There are mainly five broad categories of ratios like liquidity ratios, solvency ratio, profitability ratio, efficiency ratio, and coverage ratio that indicate the company's performance, and various examples of these ratios include current ratio, return on equity, debt equity ratio, dividend payout, to list some of the ratios. To start with, I'm going to first talk about the current ratio. The current ratio compares all of a company's current assets to its current liabilities. These are usually defined as the assets that are cash or will be turned into a cash in a year or so, and liabilities that will be paid in a year or so. The current ratio is sometimes also referred to as working capital ratio and helps investors understand more about the company's ability to cover its short-term debt with its current assets. There's another ratio that we normally talk about in financial management, which is about quick ratio. Quick ratio is an indicator of a company's short-term liquidity position and measures a company's ability to meet its short-term obligations with its most liquid assets. The quick ratio indicates the company's capacity to pay its current liabilities without needing to sell its inventory or get additional financing. Well, often banks would want to see whether the company has the capacity to pay the short term debt or not. They should not be a scenario where they have to sell out their additional inventory or additional financing for paying off their short term loan. The quick ratio is considered as more conservative measure than the current ratio, which includes all current assets as a coverage for current liabilities. Higher the ratio result, the better the company's liquidity and financial health. The lower the ratio, the more likely the company will struggle with paying debts. We have another ratio, proprietary ratio, which is also known as equity ratio, which is nothing but the proportion of shareholders' equity to total assets, such as provide a rough estimate of the amount of capitalization currently used to support a business. Thus, the equity ratio is a general indicator of financial stability of a company. No doubt, it plays an important role in deciding the financial position, but the more important ratios are the debt equity ratio, current ratio, and the quick ratio. We have another ratio, fixed asset ratio, which is nothing but the efficiency ratio calculated by dividing the company's net sales by its net profit, property, plant, and equipment. It measures how well a company generates sales from its property, plant, and equipment. Well, that was a very brief snapshot of some of the ratios which I'm going to cover in today's lecture. And we're going to also make up an Excel sheet highlighting the calculation of these particular ratios. So I hope the Excel sheet is pretty visible to everybody, and let me just increase the font size, and let me make it bold as well so that people can easily see that. Well, before I talk about the practical side of a ratio analysis, first of all, I will have to make a quick balance sheet of a company, which will have, on one hand, it will have the liabilities, and on the other hand, it will have the assets. So let me just make a very small balance sheet of a company, which I have named it as Unicorn. So I will say that balance sheet. 2020, 21, and the company name I have kept for this particular example is Unicorn Limited, right? So I have liabilities on one hand, I have amount, then I have assets, liabilities, and that's it. Let me also have a better space for amount and for liabilities so that we have better space to write this amount. So in case of liabilities, we have examples such as equity share, we have preference share as well. I'll write in short form. Equity share, I have taken it as 15,000. Preference share, I've taken it as 2,000. Well, I suppose people know the difference between the two. Preference shares are those shares, the holders of these shares will be having a preferred benefits or the preferred advantages. They will always be given preference when it comes to giving a bonus or giving dividend after profit that the company has earned. So after preference share, we have debentures. Well, in this class, I repeat one more time. This class is not for the financial management, but this class is basically to use the show the application of Excel in financial management, particularly in case of ratio analysis. So we are going to see how Excel can actually help us in making a sheet for ratio analysis. So then we have sundry creditors. Let me correct the spelling. And the sundry creditors are of 6,000 amount. I have bills payable as well that also come under the category of the liabilities. Right, so bill payables are around 10,000. Right, and let me just I will total at the end. Let me write the asset side also. So in the asset side, I have land and building. The amount of land and building is coming out to be around 8,000. Then we have plant and machinery. Let me correct the spelling of this, and then I will write the amount of plant and machinery is around 9,000. Well, over here, the amount for land and building and plant and machinery is almost the same in the form. Then we have stock, which is a very important asset used in the company. The stock is around 6,000. We have cash, which is another important type of the assets. So we have cash of around 2,800 cash, and then we have debtors that is amounting around to 7,000. After debtors, we have some prepaid expenses as well, and they are coming out to be 1,200. So I'm going to total these amounts so as to get the total amount of assets that the company is having. So I just click on that, and I will want to highlight that, and I will do the same thing for the liabilities also. I simply go to formulas, say auto sum, and I have this particular amount coming out same as the amount of the assets. So in balance sheet, we need to remember that the side of the asset and the liabilities need to be equal with each other. Only then we say that the balance sheet is the balanced financial statement. And balance sheet is also another one of the very important financial statement used by a lot of banks to analyze the financial position of a company. But certainly, ratios can provide you a better idea about the financial status of any company, whether the company is into loss or profit or what. And there are different trends in which we can actually see this status. So the very first ratio that we're going to talk about today is about, I'll write the formula over here. The very first ratio that we are going to talk about is the current ratio. Well, I'm going to write the formula on the side, and I'm also going to mention the calculation at the same on the same side. We have the current ratio, which is nothing but the division of or ratio of the current assets and the current liabilities. Let me just complete that, and then I will be having. So the The current ratio is nothing but the ratio of the current assets and the current liabilities. Now let's calculate the current assets first of all. So the current assets is nothing but, if I see the balance sheet very carefully, it is nothing but the summation of stock. Let me highlight that, and I need to consider these amounts for the calculation of the current assets. So I'm going to highlight that with the color, with the stock, then cash, we have debtors as well, and then we have last item as prepaid expenses. So all these components will be part of the current asset. So I will simply say equal to, I can use the sum function as well, but since they are less numbers, I prefer to use the sum sign or plus sign. But I can very easily write the sum function and just say sum bracket D7 to D10. 7,000 and then 1,200. But since the numbers were very less, I thought of writing that like this. Then I need to calculate the current liabilities. That is nothing but, if I just see the balance sheet, it is nothing but the sum of sundry creditors. If I just do like this, sundry creditors are 6,000, bills payable are 10,000. The current liabilities will come out to be the sum of 6,000 and 10,000. All right. So now I calculate the current ratio, which is nothing but the ratio of the current assets, which is 17,000 divided by 16,000. Right. So I get this particular amount as 1.05 as the current ratio. Right. Let me highlight this with the other color so that we can easily see that what we are getting. Let me also write a heading name as well. Right, I can write this over here as well. It will be pretty visible to everybody, and I can space the columns like that. So current ratio in this case we can see is coming out to be a positive number, and it is a bit on the higher side, indicating that the company Unicorn is indeed having more current assets than the current liabilities, which is indeed a good sign of the better financial position comparatively with respect to the resources. Right. So next we come to the quick ratio, which is nothing but the division of quick assets. I will write over here quick assets and the current liabilities. Now current liabilities we have already calculated, so I don't think there is a need to calculate that one more time, but let's see what we have. So over here we have quick ratio, and it is the division of quick assets and the current liability. So let me just calculate the current assets. Current assets, let me just make them better placed so that we know that what we are calculating under what heading. So I will write uh, so I will write 17,000 under current assets and 16,000 under current liabilities, and then we have current ratio as the division of the two. In a similar manner, I will do the same thing for this. I can easily write this under current ratio so that it's better viewable, right? I think this is a better option.